People will refuse to vote because they did not get a t-shirt. That's what they give you, t-shirt, rum, and useless things like that. Remember, that was the same thing the European white people were giving the Africans. What did the slaves give, the black people give? They gave their labor, their sweat, their blood, their tears, their children, and they gave the sugar cane, the tobacco, and all of those things. The same thing, the politicians give you these useless things, the rum and the pieces of cloth, the t-shirt and all of that, and what do you give them? You give them the cross and the power. The power to put laws that is even going to work against you. Whereas, what do they give you? You give them a job where they get good salaries every month. You give them access to multi-million-dollar contracts. You give them control of the human resources, the public service of the government or of the country. You give them access to powerful networks of powerful men and women and companies, not only in your country but overseas also. You give them value when you vote for them. You give them value. But what they give you, the same useless things that the white people used to give the Africans in the slave trade, in the Great Triangle. That's what this guy is giving you, the same thing. So after all these years, after around 400 years, black people are fooled and maneuvered and manipulated by the same trick, the same thing. The devil never come with new tricks. The same way he got your great-grandfather, he getting you the same way if you don't get yourself under that mentality. Send things like guns so that the people would be able to capture more people for them. These are the things they would send to Africa. And from Africa, they send in the slaves. So observe, the most valuable thing in that trade were people and the things that the slaves produce. So all the important things came from black people. What did the Europeans produce and traded with? What did they provide? They provided rum, spirits, beads, shiny objects to fool them, to fool those people, and they would send other metallic things that they made. But the most valuable things were the things that the black people produced or provided. What did the Europeans provide? Beads, trinkets, things that have very little value, spirits, alcohol to get those jokers drunk. And nothing has changed. What we have going on in these election cycles and the election seasons, what do we have? The politicians are like the white men in Europe. They give you things that are shining. The European white people used to give beads, pieces of cloth, and useless things like rum. And the politicians in the Caribbean, in St. Lucia, they give you rum too. They give you useless things that are shiny, like t-shirts, hats. And the thing is, you value these useless things. I have heard people saying, "Maka vote, you pa bang a t-shirt, maka vote." is that in spite of the fact that both of these major political parties may talk, make you believe that they are somehow concerned about agriculture, by their actions and the demonstrations of both these political parties, they have shown that they do not really care about that agriculture business. They do not really care about this thing. Let me tell you, and let me give you an idea of what agriculture can do or what agriculture has done. Some of you people may not have been born yet, but when our banana industry was booming, every weekend, every week, this is what we used to hear in the valley. You would hear something like Tiko Poyon, Alak Poyon. That means Tiko bought a van, Alak bought a van, Shewi Poyon, Shewi bought a van. Man, every week somebody, at least 2 vans in a community, every week somebody was buying a van. Not only that, it was not only about vans. Houses were being constructed. A lot of these supermarkets that you see in Castries, Julian Supermarket, there's another one that was a small one that was popular again, something called Lira Supermarket. A lot of these shops got their strength when we were doing well in our farming. Our farming was being taken seriously. Not only that, all the little shops were doing well. The restaurants in Castries were doing well. Money was circulating very well. A very important thing I want you to remember is that during this time, we did not have people getting involved in risking their lives to sell drugs. Because every man, people, either you work for your father, your parents, you're working for your parents, you're getting your money every week. Or even some people who were working for their parents had their own little banana plots. This crime thing that we see in there now, that never used to be like that. Yet there was a prime minister who opened up his mouth and said that there is no relationship between poverty and crime, something to that effect. He knows very well that there's a direct link and a very strong correlation too between poverty and crime, but yet he's going and say that to, for his political eminence. So they will lie and they will mess up a whole country just so that they can get political eminence. Now, this agriculture thing has done a lot for us. But now what we see happening is we have, even if the thing is not as profitable as it used to be, but agriculture is one of the ways that people can generate income by themselves, because the public service will not be able to employ too many people. Other private businesses will have a limit as to how many people they can employ. At least that's what it looks like. And at 12 o'clock or 11 o'clock, when everybody start getting hungry, whatever you eat has to come from plants and animals. So to me, that alone should encourage the fact that when you get hungry, you eat food. That should at least get a Minister of Agriculture and the Prime Minister and all of them to see the value of agriculture. and the other benefits that we can derive from agriculture. One of the reasons why I'm telling you that they do not really care about that, successive government, both SLP and UWP, they just give you the impression that they're into that. How is it that you can have a country where you have farmers producing vegetables and things like that, and then you have to sign documentation to say that we do not have tomatoes, so it is okay to bring a container of tomato from Miami. But then you bring your container of tomato, and then when the fellas come downtown to sell the tomatoes, they're finding out that they call whoever it is and they're saying, okay, we have enough, there was a container and all of that. You have tomatoes, big parcels of tomatoes selling on the streets of Castries for $3. I wonder if those people can ever recover the cost of producing these tomatoes in the first place. Now, why should that happen in a country where you have extension officers? You have a Ministry of Agriculture where you pay extension officers every month to go to these farms to advise the people, give them technical knowledge as to how to produce things or whatever. And at the end, and you're supposed to know how much there is on the ground. At the end of the day, when you go to a meeting, there's a guy one time who was responsible for marketing who actually said that the farmers don't tell them what they plant and how much they plant. This is the most ridiculous thing that I've heard, and it is one of the biggest jokes you're going to hear everywhere. They're paying you thousands of dollars a month. They're paying extension officers thousands of dollars a month to know what is going on. You guys sign documentation saying that there is no tomatoes, so we can bring this tomato, you can import these tomatoes. And yet, when the farmer is ready to sell, the same week they can sell. Why are we paying extension officers? But all the time, it is always poor people that is always feeling the pressure. Now, the bad thing about that is these same farmers, the reason that is continuing to happen is these farmers, they will support the same Minister of Agriculture just because he's from their political party. The Ministry of Agriculture makes his money every month. You are not able to sell your tomatoes. He doesn't really care about you. They allow people to come into with their containers of tomatoes that yours cannot sell. But yet you're more preoccupied in your political party winning an election as opposed to your livelihood. So the livelihood of your children, the livelihood of yourself and your family, you put that towards the back and you worry about a political party winning an election, which when they win an election, invariably none of these political parties are really concerned about agriculture. And the worst thing is when you go to these meetings and for you to see that the minister himself is berating farmers. There is one of these ministers of agriculture who literally does not respect these farmers. The man behaves like, ooh, ooh, when you ask him a question. Ooh, ooh. That's how he behaves, like a wild animal. If a guy does not respect you as farmers in a meeting, how do you think that this guy is going to use his energy and his strength and his influence to help you economically, or to put you at an economic advantage, or to help you sell your things or export your things? Or how will that guy ever look after your best interest when he does not respect you at meetings? And when it comes to agriculture, that thing should be separated from politics, because none of these people are really concerned about you guys. Giving you a bag of fertilizer 2 bags of fertilizer. What has happened as a result of this neglect of the agricultural sector? You have very, very capable people who are trained in farming, who knows how to farm. They know how to grow anything, everything rather. But at the end of the day, what is happening is these guys are leaving their farms because they cannot make a living out of it. They plant and they cannot sell. So a lot of good farmers now have found themselves working security jobs. Working security jobs. Some of them were able to go to Martinique to sell, to work. You live in, they call that again is a joke, boy. And there was one time when I went to New York. I went to New York one time. That was when the banana thing was just getting messed up. And it was really, it was very, it was almost sad to see that the best farmers you knew of, you've seen all of them in New York. Now, I'm going to give you this one last point because I know that people have very short attention spans these days. The thing that is going to benefit people, they don't have time and they don't have patience to listen to it. But people have time to go to Facebook to watch all manner of stupidity that does not help you. The things that you watch on Facebook, spending all them time on them things don't really help you. But these are the things that you want to spend time watching. And you do not complain. And the things that can benefit you, you're not interested in it. Now, one of the reasons why we're not moving forward enough in this country is because we are allowing ourselves to be deceived by things that have no value just because they're shining and they have a gloss on them. Let me tell you something. The same trick as were used by other people to fool black people, and black people are using this same trick to fool black people even now. And this may be of a deeper psychological reasoning than I can even present in a way that that will be able to be understood. Remember, there's something called the Great Triangle around the time of the slave trade. The English people, they would go to Africa and they would buy they would take the slaves. They would take the slaves from Africa, take them to the Caribbean, America, and those places. The slaves would work on these places, and then the thing would go back to the other end of the triangle would be back to Europe. But what happened? The slaves in the Caribbean and America would produce the tobacco, the sugar cane, and the other things that the other commodities that they would need. So they would produce the cigarettes and the cigars and whatever from the tobacco, because places like Virginia in America was noted for producing tobacco. The Caribbean had a lot of sugar cane, so when they processed those things, these things would go to England. Now from England, hear what the England people they would have sent from England. From England to Africa, they would send things like beads, rum, spirits, rum, beads, the pieces of cloth, and they would also send things like guns, so that the people would be able to capture more people for them. These are the things they would send to Africa. And from Africa, they send in the slaves. So observe, the most valuable thing in that trade were people and the things that the slaves produce. So all the important things came from black people. What did the Europeans produce and traded with? What did they provide? They provided rum, spirits, beads, shiny objects to fool them, to fool those people, and they would send other metallic things that they made. But the most valuable things were the things that the black people produced or provided. What did the Europeans provide? Beads, trinkets, things that have very little value, spirits, alcohol to get those jokers drunk. And nothing has changed. What we have going on in these election cycles and the election seasons, what do we have? The politicians are like the white men in Europe. They give you things that are shining. The European white people used to give beads, pieces of cloth, and useless things like rum. And the politicians in the Caribbean, in St. Lucia, they give you rum too. They give you useless things that are shiny, like t-shirts, hats. And the thing is, you value these useless things. I have heard people saying, "Maka vote, you put on a t-shirt, maka vote." People will refuse to vote because they did not get a t-shirt. That's what they give you: t-shirt, rum, and useless things like that. Remember, that was the same thing the European white people were giving the Africans. What did the slaves give, the black people give? They gave their labor, their sweat, their blood, their tears, their children, and they gave the sugar cane, the tobacco, and all of those things. The same thing, the politicians give you these useless things, the rum and the pieces of cloth, the t-shirt and all of that, and what do you give them? You give them the cross and the power. The power to put laws that is even going to work against you. Whereas, what do they give you? You give them a job where they get good salaries every month. You give them access to multi-million-dollar contracts. You give them control of the human resources, the public service of the government or of the country. You give them access to powerful networks of powerful men and women and companies, not only in your country but overseas also. You give them value when you vote for them. You give them value. But what they give you, the same useless things that the white people used to give the Africans in the slave trade, in the Great Triangle. That's what this guy is giving you, the same thing. So after all these years, after around 400 years, black people are fooled and maneuvered and manipulated by the same trick, the same thing. The devil never come with new tricks. The same way he got your great-grandfather, he getting you the same way if you don't get yourself under that mentality. So what happened is, You sell yourself cheap for a little glass of rum, for these t-shirts and all of that. And people who supposed to be at the leadership, people who supposed to be leading, competent men and women, you take them out of government, or you bring the wrong people in government for a glass of rum. It's the way some of you people behave. You go to a rally, somehow you didn't get a bear or whatever, and you will not, and you say you're not voting for a bear. A bear is $3.50. You cannot buy a bear. You buy mahe. You buy tout mon mahe. You buy mahe. Don't you have food at your home to eat? And vous pas avant quitter la caillou pour supposer plein boudon avant quitter caillou. These are some of the ridiculous things that you see, and these are the ridiculous things that you hear when you go around this. And so what happens is, you will sometimes, people sell out the country to people who have no plans for a glass of bounty rum, for a piece of chicken, for a t-shirt. There was one time, here's a guy's argument one time in the valley. I actually heard a guy say that the reason he was going to vote for a certain guy, a former minister guy, is because he can get a breadfruit on the guy's land. He can get a breadfruit. And boy, these things make me think. For a breadfruit, these things make me think. These things make me think, and these things make me wonder. The same thing that happened, the same way that we were sold into slavery, the same way, the same things, the same trinkets, the same useless things, the rum, the cloth that the white people brought to Africa to tempt the eyes of these Africans with pieces of cloth and beads and rum. Our people are still, after 400 years, our people are still being deceived by the same thing. One last point. How can St. Lucia rise? Let me tell you people something. You people may not agree. You can fight it as you want. But God, Elohim, is the creator of heaven and earth. And when I was growing up as a boy, on a Saturday and on a Sunday, wherever it is that you are affiliated to, everybody would find themselves in a house of prayer or worship. What I noticed happened when we were doing well financially, somewhere around the time when people were making money. Because there was a time in St. Lucia where everybody was hungry. For the most part. Most people were hungry. The banana industry, I believe, changed that. Sometime around the time of where, in my estimation, the boost that we get from the banana industry, I think that somewhere along that line, people felt like they had arrived and they were well off and they did not need God no more. So then what happened is people stopped going to church, stopped going to the houses of worship because they have arrived. And so generations stopped going to the house of God, and so the children that they had were never taught about Elohim. But the Bible says that if you turn your back away from God, He's going to turn His back away from your children. It is there somewhere. I can't remember where exactly it is. I can't tell you chapter and verse right now. But I have read it that God say, Elohim, that if you turn your back from Him, He's going to turn His back away from your children. And so what will happening now is God turned His back away from them people because the people turn their backs away from Him. And so right now you're hearing all crime going on, things that you would never think that would have happened is happening in the place. And so everybody blaming police. Policeman at his home sleeping when your children going out there shooting and killing people, and yet you are blaming the police. The commissioner of police at his home sleeping, your children out there killing people, and you're making it look as if the police commissioner is responsible for that. These same people, especially a lot of these women are very guilty. You know, some of these people will have their children misbehaving in the community, and somebody try to caution their children about bad behavior, and they will tell the people, don't tell their children anything. Don't tell their children anything. There are people whose children are misbehaving in the schools, and the parents will come and quarrel with the teachers. And so what happened is some of these ladies, they themselves stop going to the house of God long time. They never tell the children about God. And then they're telling other people who discipline their children, leave their children alone. So what you're trying to do is you're telling a whole system of the community to just quitter them up on issue. C'est ça qu'a dit. Just quitter them up fait of les because teacher a pas dit rien. En quoi dans ma community il ka ouais ka fait ba il pas dit rien. So ou même pas ka voyer dans l'église ko il s'attend thou shall not kill, thou shall not this, because when you go to the church they will not encourage you to do nothing that is bad, although there are some bad things that they're doing that I want to address too. But none of the people will tell your children to go and smoke, go and drink, go and do this, go and do that. What if you tell the people, don't drink, thou shall not kill, thou shall not steal, thou shall not this? The reason for that, the benefit of that is sometimes you find yourself in conflict, and you remember in that you're not supposed to hate people. You're not supposed to kill people. You're not supposed to take revenge, because God said revenge is mine. So that is why you go to the church, so that you will hear things, you will hear of the principles and precepts of God, so that when you find yourself in the practical situation, at least you will have an idea how to deal with it. But when you tell your children, when you don't let your children go there, how will they be exposed to it? You yourself don't tell them about Elohim. You don't send them to a place where they can hear about Elohim and His laws. When other men and women in the community trying to tell your children, do not do these bad things, you tell them, kite issue pa di issue anye. When the teachers in the schools try to discipline them, you come and try to curse the teachers. So in essence, what you are doing is, society, leave my children or my child alone. Let the devils do what they want with them, but I don't want you to discipline them. Let devils do what they want with them instead. So at the end of the day, as they say, when the shit hits the fan, you now want to blame the commissioner of police. You want to blame every government. You want to blame every government minister. You want to blame this. You want to blame that. And the people listen to the stupidity coming from these politicians. You know, these politicians are messing up their own selves. A word of advice to these politicians: people, when you're out of government, watch what you say, because you're going to tie yourself. you're going to mess up yourself. Some of them fellas come. I remember there was a time SLP was talking a lot. They're just talking, hey, blah, 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 blah. They won the elections, and as soon as they won the elections, they started telling the people that Flambeau left and they did not leave any money in the treasury. Excuse, eh? Excuse. And so when they give you that story, that means you should anticipate that nothing much will be happening. You do not tell people those things. Because the treasury, who did that treasury packet here? They left no money in the treasury. But then invariably each and every minister wants new office equipment, office furniture, probably costing around $20,000 or more. Each man wants the government to buy them a new four-wheel drive or whatever. And regardless of which government come in power, all of them do the same thing. UWP, SLP, all of them doing the same thing. Telling the people that there is no money, but yet there is money for you to take care of your personal comfort. And so these things create conflict, because what happens is you hype up the expectations of young people, and then you crush the expectations, and then you're causing decent boys to become criminals, because you break in their will and you break in their spirit because they had confidence in you. Have you, both Labour Party and UWP, thought really hard about how you have broken the confidence of young people? You had these young people rallying for you, making them believe that you're going to change their circumstances. And at the end of the day, you did nothing for these people. You just broke the spirit of those people. Both of you people, SLP and UWP, you do that to the young people. This thing that is coming on there, this election, I have no horse in that race. But I just want what is best for the people of St. Lucia. And I don't want to get involved in any of the political vibes that is going on there. But this I want to say. There was something that Mr. Philippe Pierre, is a man, I like his grassroots style. He's a guy I like. But he said something I was disappointed in him for saying. Mr. Pierre was saying something to the extent that he was making some promises, that some things that he would deliver on should he win the elections. One of the things that he said was that people, civil servants who are making less than $4,000 a month would not pay income tax, something to that effect, which I think was a dangerous and a reckless statement. Brother Pierre, you can't say that, because what happened is a lot of the places that were employing people, tourists and other places, these things are closed, these things are going on. We had a lot of people in the cruise business, in the boat business. A lot of people were supposed to go, and I don't think that has manifested yet. So basically what we have is a situation where government is not collecting the revenues that they used to collect. And Mr. Pierre, you're an economist, you're a business guy, you know these things better than us. Now, you now is saying that you're not going to take tax from the people, the bulk of the tax-paying people. You are not going to be making those people pay income tax. So we have lost so much money in revenue, you want to cut it again. So where are you going to get the balance? Where are you going to get the balance? This is a reckless vibe, Brother Pierre. That's reckless. Don't say that. And I'm going to behave as if I never heard that, Mr. Pierre. Don't say that. I respect you too much for me to hear them kind of things coming out of your mouth. That just behave like you never said that thing. That don't make no sense. Don't say them kind of things. Don't raise the hopes of young people and then to crush their hopes. Don't do that. This thing has been happening for a long time. You all need to stop them things. And when you're getting power, you all need to think of the grassroots. You all need to think of the people at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder. You need to, because what happened is, poor people are the ones that spend most of their money when they have, because the poor person has so many needs that when they get their money, I needed that hat for so long, I needed a stove for so long, I needed a fridge for so long, I needed this for so long. These things spin the economy. The man that has money, he feels good having 200, 300, 1 million, 2 million, $3 million in his account. He will not touch that. He's just allowing the interest income to come through. This man ain't gonna really spend no money. In terms of pushing the economy, a lot of rich people are very useless to the economy sometimes. But the small ones are the ones that are pushing the economy. And the thing is, I'm not an economist, I don't know, but these are basic things that every man should know. Because that's one of the reasons why in places like America, when the economy becomes very slow, the government would send out rebate checks to tax-paying people. Low earning tax-paying people would just take that money and just go to Best Buy, buy a DVD player, buy a 52-inch, buy a thing. They wanted a washing machine. The washing machine wasn't working well. They want to buy one. They want to do this. They want to do that. That spins the economy. Poor people spin the economy. Poor people spin the economy. So when you really look at it, people, do not let yourselves be deceived by this thing that is going on there. Make the best decisions for, if it is that you're a farmer, make decisions that can benefit. Vote for the people that can benefit your farming ventures and your farming business. Don't just vote like that. Vote for what you do for a living. There are people that are from overseas and they get more benefits than you. If you're a farmer, vote to benefit as a farmer, man. If you're a tradesman, which one of them parties there you think is going to benefit you as a tradesman? And that thing, and it is so strange, boy. It is so strange. Let me tell you something. The level of ignorance sometimes kill people, you know, man. Ignorance kill people. Ignorance is dangerous. Ignorance and stupidity is dangerous. Somebody will tell you that their logics and their reasoning for voting for one political party is maka by vote mwen bope. That means they're not going to give their vote a step further. They're going to be loyal to the party that they're accustomed to. So by simple logic, simple reasoning, ou pa ka bay vote ou bope, mais ou ka bay hish ou bope. Presque zo tout tika di sa zo bay hish zo bope, mais zo pa ka bay vote zo bope. So which means that your vote is even more important to you. Your political party is more important to you than your own child. By simple understanding, without even trying to think deep, that's what I can get from it. So if it is that our mind cannot get better, our thinking and our logic, because when you really look at it, from the 1960s, even the 50s up to now, I really don't think that the mentality of people getting any better. People right now have more access to internet and all of them things, but are people really smarter than the way our people used to be before? And even in different sectors, like in the agriculture sector, the people that were working in the agriculture departments, I believe that the ones that we used to have working in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s were much more productive than the ones that we have now, and perhaps in other sectors and industries too. Some of these people that we have that are retired and all of that, retired many years ago, some of these people produce more in the country than some of the people that we have right now. A lot of the people that we have right now seem to be more concerned about their salaries than any other thing. Anyway, that is what I have to say right now. That is just the first part. You understand? I just trying to see how we can get a better country, a better situation for everybody, especially the poor people. Keep the fire burning.